Discover 12 sinister legends from haunted Salem, unexplainable tales that still terrorize today. Claire was a survivor. Juggling her demanding night job at the diner and managing her 2 kids, she had grown used to the routine. The stillness of Salem, with its witchy history and charming streets, felt like a shroud that lulled the town's inhabitants to sleep. But that peace was a fragile mask, one that shattered when she heard the whispers about the Watchers. A curse, they said, hidden in the shadows, waiting for the vulnerable to claim. Claire brushed it off at first, chalking it up to spooky urban legends. But as she began to piece together clues, unease crawled under her skin like ants. Each night in the diner, the locals shared hushed rumors between sips of coffee, voices barely above a whisper. "They say the Watchers feast on families," one old-timer confessed. "They thrive on fear, like moths to a flame." Claire felt a chill as the words slithered into her mind. It all seemed so ludicrous, yet an unsettling murmur clung to the back of her thoughts. Returning home after a long shift one night, Claire felt something shift in her children. They were more withdrawn, casting furtive glances over their shoulders as if something sinister lurked beyond the night. Ellie, just 8, clung to her older brother, Tommy, both wide-eyed, seemingly captivated by shadows that danced just beyond her vision. Small moments soon burgeoned into escalations, shadows flickering in the corners, whispers that felt too taunting, too close. The chill that once felt familiar now enveloped her home in dread, and Claire's mind raced with turmoil and worry. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As days dragged on, Claire found herself becoming more desperate. She turned to her neighbors, seeking help or advice, only to be met with mumbled excuses and vacant expressions. "Oh, that's just folk tales," they'd say, brushing her off like pollen from their shoulders. Stark fear crackled in her bones as she saw indifference harden their faces, leaving her to shoulder the dread alone. The authorities were just as useless. Distracted by rampant discussions of corruption, they barely acknowledged her concerns about the rising turmoil swirling through Salem. It all came to a fevered peak one stormy night when Ellie burst through Claire's bedroom door, eyes wild, heart pounding like a war drum. "Mommy, I saw one, a real one," she shrieked, pointing past Claire to an empty corner where shadows twisted ominously. Claire's heart dropped to her stomach, the air suddenly thick with ice. Those dark tales flooded back unbidden. Watchers that cannot be seen, only felt, their presence a suffocating weight. She could almost hear the whispers closing in, the weight of family unraveling as fear clutched at her throat. She felt the gnawing dread ripple through her like electric current. Flickers of movement lurked outside her window at dusk. The mundane sounds of their neighborhood turned into a cacophony of terror. Just as she decided to confront this dark truth head-on, her phone buzzed insistently with a chilling notification. A photo of her kids at the park, figures lurking behind them cloaked in darkness, watching. Even the shadows were cast in a sinister light, as realization slammed into her. The very town she trusted was a labyrinth of secrets, and the whispers she had brushed off as folklore were more than mere tales. The Watchers were not figments. They were here, and they were coming for her family. With the fabric of safety in Salem shredding around her, Claire stood at the precipice of terror where every thread pulled closer to an unbearable truth. Who could she trust against the onslaught of shadows? The night wrapped around Claire like a cold, suffocating blanket. She stood in the corner of her dimly lit living room, Ellie still shaking in her arms, and Tommy staring wide-eyed at the doorway.
Shadows pooled in every crevice, stretching and twisting as if they had lives of their own. Each pulse of her heart echoed through the silence, a reminder of the danger lurking just beyond the flimsy barrier of their home. Claire's mind raced, torn between comfort and fear. She kissed Ellie on the forehead, desperate to assure her little girl despite her own rising panic. "It's okay, sweetie, just a bad dream," she whispered, even as doubt gnawed at her. Bad dreams didn't send chills down her spine like this, did they? "Mom?" Tommy's voice cracked, a whisper barely breaking the tension. "What if they're real? What if they're watching us right now?" With a deep breath, Claire pulled herself together. She had to be strong, at least for her kids. But the horror of what Ellie claimed, the photograph, all of it, crashed together in her mind like thunder, drowning out rational thought. "Let's find out," Claire said, trembling with the weight of her words. "We'll protect each other." She slowly moved toward the kitchen, where knives gleamed under the flickering light. Each step felt like walking on glass, ready to shatter at the slightest touch. She grabbed a large chef's knife, holding it as she would a lifeline. It was a poor shield, but it was all she had. Just then, a sudden noise blasted through the stillness, the sharp rattle of the back door. It jolted her. The whispers she had thought were merely her imagination chattered at the edge of her mind, coiling around her, squeezing tightly. "Stay close," she whispered.
Ordered, her voice shaking slightly. They huddled behind her as she approached the door, anticipation mixing with dread. She gripped the handle tightly, countdown ringing in her ears. 1, 2, her heart thundered like a drum in her chest. 3, and then she threw the door open with a force that startled her too. The cold wind hit her face, whipping her hair wildly as she stared into the abyss of night. Nothing, just the stillness of the yard, shrouded in darkness. Yet she could feel it. The prickling sensation of being watched pierced her skin. There was tension, an unspoken challenge hanging in the air, taunting her. "Mom?" Tommy's voice trembled again. Claire turned to look at him, his eyes wide with fear and uncertainty, an echo back to her own rising panic. Just then, a faint rustle in the bushes caught her attention. She stepped outside, the knife clutched in front of her like a shield. The crunching of leaves echoed eerily behind her as she strained to listen. Her breath quickened, icy wind brushing against her skin as she felt a jolt of realization wash over her. What was lurking out there? In the forest beyond her yard, a figure slid between trees, cloaked in shadow. Claire's heart raced as it turned and seemed to gaze directly at her. It stood eerily still, its features obscured, but a cold understanding seeped into her bones. It watched with patient hunger, the glimmer of eyes piercing through the darkness, and she knew without a doubt, this wasn't a nightmare. Turning back toward her children, she saw their faces reflecting the same raw terror that rooted her feet to the ground. A quick breath escaped her lips, and her hands trembled on the knife's handle. "How do you battle a horror you can't even see?" "I won't let them have you," she whispered. But her voice felt small, drowned under the weight of uncertainty. She stepped back, urging her children inside, keeping her eyes trained on the cloaked figure as they moved. The darkness loomed larger, and she felt every instinct scream at her to flee. But the finality of the door closing felt like a betrayal. Had they won already? With the door locked tight, Claire could hear the muffled breaths of her kids beside her. Yet that feeling of being watched, no, hunted, never left her. It clawed at her every thought, pushing her closer to the edge of panic. As the minutes crept by, silence fell like a heavy shroud. There was no more rustling, just that suffocating quiet that made her stomach churn. What had she unleashed? And what would she do when it came for them? Then it happened. A deliberate knock at the door, steady, slow, almost polite, but filled with an unholy promise. Claire's breath caught.
It was the harbinger of her worst fears. The Watchers were here. Who was at the door? How would she confront the terrors that had come for her family? As the knock echoed,
again she shivered, a chilling realization slowly dawning on her. Escape was no longer an option. They were weaving their way into her life, slowly unraveling everything she held dear. Claire's heart raced, each knock resonating through her chest like a death toll. She glanced at Ellie, whose trembling had transformed into a quiet sob, and Tommy, whose eyes darted to the shadows, searching for any flicker of movement. They were all swallowed by an overwhelming sense of dread that clung to them. "Stay here," Claire whispered, her voice barely breaking the oppressive darkness. She stepped closer to the door, knife poised in front of her. With every footfall towards that cursed entrance, she felt a pull, a dark gravity urging her to open it, to confront what lay beyond. Another knock. This one sounded with an eerie finality, echoing in the hollow room. Her fingers brushed the door handle, hesitating for a moment, her thoughts jumbled. What was waiting on the other side? She took a deep breath. "Mommy's here," she said, forcing calm into her voice. Behind her, Ellie gasped, drawing an innocent strength from the words. Claire turned to them one last time, and she saw her children's fear reflected in her own eyes. "Whatever happens, we stick together," she vowed. With trembling hands, she twisted the handle and flung the door wide open. The freezing wind slapped her face, and she squinted into the inky blackness. But the figure was gone. Just like that, it had vanished, leaving only the leaf-strewn path leading into the forest. The silence stretched, a taunt so weighty it almost suffocated her. "See?" Claire called out, though her heart sank. "Nothing's there." But even as she spoke, uncertainty slithered into her thoughts. The figure hadn't just been her imagination, had it? "Mom!" Tommy cried out, pointing down the street. Instinctively, she turned back, and there, at a distance, was the shadow again, out in the faint glow of the streetlight. This time, it moved, gliding along the edge of the forest, its pace slow and deliberate. Each step it took felt calculated, as though it were teasing them, like a spider edging closer to its trapped prey. Fear coiled around her throat. "We need to get away from the door," she shouted, pulling her children back into the house, slamming the door shut behind them. The lock clicked into place, but in her gut, Claire knew that wouldn't be enough. The shadows outside had no need for doors or windows. "Mommy, what was that?" Ellie whimpered, reaching for her. Claire knelt beside her, wrapping her arms around both children. "Just a trick of the light," she lied. But her mind raced, piecing together the events. The photo Ellie had found, whispers in the night, and now this. "Mom, it's coming for us," Tommy whispered, terror leaching the color from his cheeks. Suddenly, a chilling sound filled the air, a metallic scraping, followed by the unmistakable sound of nails dragging against wood. The noise came from the back of the house, deep and slow, like a beast toying with its victim. "Keep quiet," Claire hissed, every instinct sharpened. They huddled together, listening, hearts pounding in sync with the sinister rhythm. Then, as if reading her thoughts, the scratching stopped abruptly. Silence fell like a curtain, swallowing the sound of their breaths. The air thickened. Claire felt a primal urge to run, but her feet were like lead, rigid with terror. She stood, her grip tight on the knife, as she edged closer to the back door, determination hardening her resolve. What lurked out there? What knew their names and families? Claire thought of every story whispered among neighbors, the unfathomable secrets buried in Salem. The Watchers were more than mere folklore. The scratching returned, louder this time, accompanied by a soft whisper, a sinister invitation that slipped through the cracks of the door. "Open up. It beckoned, sweet as honey, thick with malice. Claire's heart raced. What if they did open the door? What if the stories were true? "Please," Ellie cried, trembling against her mother. "Stay back," Claire shouted. She could feel a dark force pressing against the door, as if eager to burst in. "Mom, we can't let it in," Tommy yelled, panic rising. But then came another, louder knock, shaking the walls of their home. The doorframe creaked alarmingly, straining under the pressure. Claire felt the air grow dense with a terrible energy, and the darkness outside seemed to pulse, hungry and alive. Every instinct screamed for her to flee, but where could they go? She took a step back, knife poised. "If anyone's out there, show yourself," she demanded, though her voice trembled under the weight of her words. The knocking stopped. All was still, and Claire's heart sank, fear warring with desperate hope. What had they awoken? And would it come for them next? The void answered with silence and darkness that felt suffocating. But soon enough, it brought a different sound, the soft thud of shuffling footsteps on the porch. And then, an impossibly quiet voice, barely above a whisper, floated through the door. "Let us in?" Claire gripped her knife tighter, dread coursing through her. As she stood at the precipice of terror, she realized this was far from over. How would they survive the night? What awaited them once the door was breached? Claire's breath quickened as the whisper clawed at her sanity. Those words curled around her mind, wrapping her in a sense of dread that felt almost tangible. "Let us in." She glanced at Ellie, whose eyes were wide with fright, shimmering like glass trapped in a storm. Tommy, too, was frozen, his face pale, every ounce of bravado stripped away. The shadows seemed to pulse, waiting. What would happen if she faltered? "Stay silent," she commanded, her voice thick with fear. The knife felt slippery in her grip, a meager defense against whatever lurked outside. She backed away from the door, pulling her children along with her. Their breaths sounding like distant echoes amid the suffocating quiet. The faint scraping resumed, more deliberate this time, a slow drag that made Claire's skin crawl. It felt like fingernails against a coffin, a warning of the horror still lurking just out of sight. Suddenly, the front window rattled violently, as if something had slammed against it. Claire jumped, her heart racing, adrenaline flooding her veins. Tommy screamed, and Ellie clutched her mother tighter. What was that? Claire's instincts screamed to hide, but where? "Get to the basement," she urged, her voice fraying at the edges. "Now!" She ushered them toward the narrow staircase that led into darkness. But as they moved, the low whisper returned. This time, a chorus of voices that seemed to seep into her mind. "Let us in," they pleaded, a maddening symphony echoing in the night. In that moment, Claire hesitated, caught between the descent into the blackened depths of the basement and the horror on the other side of the door. The darkness seemed to promise safety, yet it also carried its own unknown threats, waiting to swallow them whole. "No," she shouted back to the voices. "Stay away." She gripped the knife, clenching her teeth as determination surged through her. "We're not afraid of you." The response was immediate, a loud crash, the door shuddering violently behind her as if struck by a great force. The thick wood groaned under the impact, splinters flying. Claire jerked her head toward the door and felt her spine tingle with fear. "Go!" she yelled as she pushed the children ahead. The basement was small, unwelcoming, but it offered separation from whatever evil was trying to breach the house. They stumbled down the stairs, and Claire flipped the light switch. The weak bulb flickered, casting unsettling shadows on the damp walls. The room was filled with old boxes and forgotten memories, their contents shrouded in a thick layer of dust, untouched for years. "Mommy, what's happening?" Ellie whimpered, her voice barely a whisper. Claire crouched down to their level, the urgency of their situation plain in her eyes. "We're going to be okay. We'll wait it out here," she said, though her own voice trembled, betraying her calm facade. A loud crack rang out from above, and the floor above them seemed to shudder, the weight of the world pressing down. "It's trying to get in," Tommy cried, panic rising like bile in her throat. "Shh," Claire motioned for them to be quiet. They huddled close together, the darkness closing in around them, thick like a suffocating blanket. The playful whispers transformed into guttural growls, echoing through the house in a chaotic cacophony, a dreadful reminder of their impending doom. Something was tearing through, attaching itself to the night like a dark plague. "Mommy, we're running out of time," Tommy breathed, the fear in his voice cutting deeper than any blade. As Claire's heart sank, a picture slid from a box pressed against the wall, revealing an image that made her blood freeze. It was an old family portrait, not of them, but of a family that had lived in the house generations before, a house drenched in horrific memories. Staring into the faces of the lost souls, she felt their sorrow entwine with her own dread. What if this was more than just folklore? What if these spirits were tied to the darkness pressing against them? "Mommy," Ellie trembled, squeezing her mother's arm, "what if it gets us?" Before Claire could respond, a thunderous crash shattered the silence from above. The sound resonated like a death knell, a final invitation that begged them to abandon hope. "Go back," the voices cried, now more frenzied, desperate. Claire's instincts screamed to run further down, but she couldn't leave the children behind. Just then, the light flickered one last time. Then, darkness. "Mom!" came the terrified shout from Tommy, spiraling into the void. And as they trembled in the pitch black, she heard it again, clearer and more insistent. "Let us in." There, behind the darkness, something was waiting, something hungry. What choice did they have now? Would they face their fate, or somehow find a way to escape the nightmares gnawing at their heels? The darkness pressed heavy around them, thick like smoke and just as suffocating. Claire's heart raced, pounding fiercely against her ribs as she strained to hear anything over the chaos above. The whispers had ceased, but the air crackled with a tense anticipation that made her skin crawl. "Mom?" Tommy's voice quivered, a thread of desperation woven into it. "Yes, honey, I'm here," Claire whispered back, forcing calm she didn't feel. She had to be strong, but the shadows seemed to leer at her, their malevolent presence the stark reminder of their plight. "Can we leave now?" Ellie whispered, her small hands trembling in the dark. "Please." "Not yet." Claire wanted to scream it, but instead she breathed deeply. Just a little longer," she murmured, judging the darkness and bracing against the fear threatening to engulf her. Then, without warning, a chilling howl erupted from above, raw and primal. It was followed by a sound Claire could only describe as something heavy dragging itself across the floor, splintering wood and tearing at the very fabric of their sanctuary. The children jumped, pressing against her tighter. "Mommy, it's coming!" The flickering bulb buzzed violently, illuminating a sliver of the room before plunging them back into darkness. They could feel it now, a palpable energy, an urge to flee, yet where could they run?
"Stay close," Claire commanded, trying to keep panic from spilling into her voice. As the dragging noise grew louder, dread settled bone deep. She glanced back at the family portrait, betrayed by the dimness. Their eyes seemed alive, pleading. "What are we doing here?" Claire thought, a treacherous chill engulfing her. Suddenly, a sharp cracking sound erupted above, louder than anything they had heard yet. The floor surged, sending dust and debris cascading down like confetti of
Despair. It wasn't just a door that was being breached. It felt like the house itself was unraveling. "Mom!" Tommy cried, squeezing her arm. She turned to see his face, illuminated for a moment by a shaft of light that flickered from some unseen source. His eyes were wide, fear radiating from him. "Get behind me," Claire shouted, clutching the knife. Her grip was trembling but resolute. They needed a plan, a way out, anything. With a suddenness that eclipsed her thoughts, the door to the basement slammed open. Claire's heart leaped. The shadows that had crouched in wait flickered briefly, and then they surged down the stairs. "Run!" Claire shouted, pushing her children forward. They darted through the dark, the hallway stretching endlessly ahead. Every step felt like it could be their last. Claire's mind raced. What had happened? Why now? Was this all truly tied to the house, or was it something more sinister lurking within their very beings? But as they reached the foot of the stairs, the air shifted. They stumbled into a room with cracked walls and an eerie, oppressive quiet. "Mom, I don't want to be here," Ellie cried, burying her face in her mother's arm. Just then, Claire's breath caught in her throat. Over the child's whimpers, she heard it again, softer this time, yet somehow more insidious. "Let us in." It echoed like a promise, urging them toward oblivion, dark tendrils of despair inching closer. Claire's heart dropped. The whispers were coming from within the walls now. "We have to," she started, but her voice faltered as a shadow loomed behind them. Something moved in the darkness, a shape coiling, melding with the night. It was not just noise, it was intent. "We came to play." It rasped, chilling them to the core. Claire's instincts screamed at her to flee, but where could they go? As the shadow stretched, swaying like a predator preparing to strike, Claire felt a surge of defiance rise through her. She had to protect her children. "Fight!" she yelled, swinging the knife wildly, though it felt like a joke against the encroaching terror. And in that instant of pure fear and fury, she could hear the whispers crescendo, drowning out everything else. "Let us in." But what they didn't know was that the darkness wasn't merely waiting for an invitation. It was already slipping inside. As the shadow lunged forward, the world spun. What would they do now? The line between reality and nightmare had blurred, and Claire was about to find out how far she'd go to save those she loved. What horrific secrets lay behind the walls of this house, longing for release? The shadow darted closer, its form shifting like smoke under turbulent winds. Claire's instincts kicked in, but the fear in her chest threatened to choke her. "Stay back," she shouted, shifting to shield Tommy and Ellie, who clung to her sides like lost lambs. But the darkness didn't heed her command. It slithered forward, revealing glimmers of hollow eyes, glistening with malevolence. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of pleading, hissing voices. "Let us in! Let us play!" Tommy's small body quaked against her. "What does it want, Mommy?" "I don't know." Claire forced the words through a throat that felt like it was closing. The knife trembled in her grip, and though she had some form of resolve, it felt useless against the ancient terror enveloping them. Suddenly, Ellie pulled away from her. "Ellie, no!" Claire shouted, but it was too late. Something lured Ellie towards the shadows, an invisible force drawing her like a moth to a flame. "Come play with us,"
a voice whispered, sounding eerily sweet, almost like a tempting siren's call. "Ellie!" Claire screamed, desperation clawing at her voice. She lunged, but the ground beneath her felt like shifting sand. It made her stumble, the shadows swirling around her, grasping at her ankles. The moment Claire reached Ellie, a surge of something cold and rancid hit her like a truck. Claire clutched her daughter, pulling her back into her arms. But the darkness responded. It roared in fury, and the room shuddered, walls vibrating as if the house itself were alive. "Get out," Claire ordered, her voice a raw rasp. "We need to find a way out." She pushed through the children, heart pounding as she searched the grim room. The cracked walls, the scattered debris, the dim corners where shadows crept. A window? No, it was just bars. How could they escape? Panicking, Claire pulled the kids closer. "We need to think. We can't give in to it." She remembered the stories told when they first moved there, the rumors of hauntings, of a family lost to the darkness. Those who had once lived in the house had never left. "Mommy, I'm scared," Tommy whimpered. "I know, we all are, but we can't let it in. We can't let it win," Claire said, her resolve hardening like iron forged in fire. Just as she gathered her strength, a grotesque laughter echoed through the room, scraping against her sanity. "You think you can fight us?" The shadow twisted around them, thin tendrils reaching for Claire's children, stretching like grasping hands. The whispers transformed into howling, a chorus of tortured souls screaming for release. "No! Get away!" Claire shouted, swinging her knife wildly again, panic rising. Each swing felt like a futile act against a tidal wave. Suddenly, the knife glanced off something solid, an echo ringing out. Had she hit something? The laughter faltered, momentarily distracted. "Move!" Claire cried, seizing the opportunity. She yanked Tommy and Ellie, bolting toward the far wall, her feet pounding against the wooden floor, echoing in a rhythm of desperation. Then a thought struck her. What if she could reach the basement, trap whatever haunted them? What if they weren't just being tormented, they were being offered something more? "Get to the basement," Claire yelled, the plan forming half-formed in her mind. But as she turned to lead her children, the shadows lunged forward again. "Let us in," it hissed, as its true form began to materialize, a ghastly figure with no face, only a swirling mass of darkness where eyes should have been. Claire's breath caught. They had to see it to understand. Freedom was just a thought away, but so was doom. The choice loomed heavy. Was this the answer they needed, or the road to their demise? "Go, now!" she screamed, propelling her children forward. But in that moment, as the figure reached towards them, Claire felt the weight of her own choices. Was she ready to risk it all? The darkness was closing in, and the echoing whispers morphed into something more fearsome, a bone-chilling promise. "Let us in." And just like that, the lights flickered, the shadows coalescing into one terrifying monstrosity, angered by their defiance. What choice had Claire made? The line between salvation and sacrifice was razor thin, teetering on the brink of oblivion. But as it lunged, a thought raced through her mind. What if this was connected to the very legacy of their family? Stay together! And with that thunderous faith echoing in her heart, she prepared to confront the nightmare, knowing that truth often lies in the darkest places. What other horrors awaited them as they spiraled down deeper into the heart of that cursed house? The basement door stood ajar, a dark maw that promised both danger and a potential escape. The whispers grew frantic, still caressing Claire's ears with every taunt. "Let us in. We can protect you." It was a sweet poison, dripping with false assurances. "Ellie, hold my hand," Claire shouted, grasping her little girl tightly. Tommy, too terrified to think, mirrored her grip on his sister. They stumbled together toward the hole in the floor, the chill from the shadows like icy fingers curling around their backs. When they reached the stairs, Claire hesitated. The darkness below pulsated, writhing just out of sight. It smelled damp and rancid, a miasma of despair. But she didn't have time to second guess. Each echoing step felt like a countdown to their doom. "Mommy," Tommy's voice strained with doubt. She could feel him trembling against her, and that fear reflected in her own heart. They had to move. With a shove, she descended into the bowels of the house. The air turned stale, thick with an oppressive weight that made her throat constrict. A flickering bulb cast grotesque shadows, elongating their figures against the stone walls. "What if it's worse down here?" Ellie whimpered, her small hand trembling. "It can't be," Claire started, but her own voice faltered. After all, how could she know? The very walls appeared to pulse, breathing in sync with the whispers that had now evolved into a chilling lullaby. "Join us, let go, find peace," they murmured, coaxing, enticing. Suddenly, a sharp rattling noise echoed through the basement, piercing the lull. Claire's heart raced as she scanned the room. In the
dim light, she noticed a door at the back. Solid wood, or maybe just her imagination. She couldn't tell, but something inside her urged her to check. "Stay close," she instructed, her voice laced with urgency. They tiptoed forward, each footfall a countdown to some unknowable fate. The shadows around them seemed to flicker ominously, as if they were alive, and the whispers escalated into echoing cries. As Claire reached for the doorknob, a new sound sliced through the air, a frantic scratching, a desperate scuttling. "Mommy, please," Tommy cried, the terror in his voice pulling her focus. From the corner of her eye, she saw shapes moving, strange silhouettes slinking across the edges of darkness. They weren't just shadows anymore. They were figures, gliding unnaturally low to the ground. Claire grabbed both her children, swinging them behind her, shielding them from the sight. "It's okay," she whispered, though she wasn't so sure herself. "We'll find a way out." Gripping the doorknob, she twisted. The door creaked open slowly, revealing a narrow tunnel that cut into the depths of the earth. A gust of fetid air rushed past her, carrying 1,000 desperate cries from unseen mouths. She hesitated, momentarily paralyzed by dread. "What's down there, Mommy?" Ellie asked, her wide eyes reflecting the dim light. Something we need to face," Claire answered, her own voice reflecting doubt but shrouded in warmth for her children's sake. "Maybe we can find a way," Tommy's words tumbled out, hope laced with fear. Before Claire could reply, an icy tendril of the darkness lunged toward them, screeching with fury as it tried to wrap around their feet. "Let us in!" The hiss morphed into a roar, reverberating through the chamber, shaking dust from the rafters. "Run! Run!" Claire shouted, shoving the kids into the tunnel. They bolted forward, as the darkness coiled behind like a living serpent, hungry and relentless. She knew they had to move deeper into that terrifying abyss, a risk that felt like a gamble with fate itself. With every step, she felt the weight of the house above them, pressing, shifting. Anguish and desperation wove tightly around her like a noose. Were they biting off more than they could chew? They pounded down the tunnel, the whispers growing louder now, and the floor throbbed beneath them. What awaited them in that sunken crypt? Would they find salvation, or would the shadows swallow them whole? With the darkness chasing them, they dove into the unknown, driven by a blind urge for survival. But as the ominous chant reached a fever pitch behind them, Claire couldn't shake the chilling thought that perhaps they weren't running from peril at all. Perhaps they were running towards something much worse. What truths lay buried in the darkness, waiting to be unearthed? The tunnel closed in around them, walls slick with moisture, the air heavy with a musty odor.
Claire's heart pounded dangerously in her chest, as if trying to escape the madness that surrounded them. "Keep moving! We have to keep moving!" she urged, but her voice felt weak, swallowed by the oppressive darkness around them. Ellie's little hand was slipping from her grip. "Mommy, I can't see anything!" she cried, panic creeping into her voice. Claire turned quickly to reassure her, but what she saw made her blood run cold. The figures were closer now, crawling with a speed that defied reason. Their flesh stretched and pulled across skeletal frames, eyes glimmering in the dark, mirroring their own fear. "Don't look back!" Claire yelled, urging the kids to press on. They stumbled deeper into the tunnel, desperately following the faint sound of their own ragged breaths. Each step felt like a descent into hell itself. The whispers, once a soft lullaby of seduction, morphed into anguished screams. "Join us, join us." The voices echoed, melding into a dissonant harmony that sank like a stone into her mind. What did they want from her? What did they want from them? A sudden jolt jolted through the tunnel floor, sending Claire stumbling, and she barely managed to rebalance herself before the whirling darkness surged. Ellie shrieked, and Tommy clutched her hand tighter, his voice trembling. "Mommy, what if we can't get out?" "Shh," she hushed him fiercely, though the fear coursed through her veins like an electric shock. "We will get out, I promise." But even as she said the words, doubts clawed at her. How could she be sure? Just ahead, a dim light flickered. Was it hope or yet another trick? Claire led them forward, but as they approached, a deep, resonant growl emanated from the darkness. Something was waiting for them, something patient and hungry. "Mom, please," Tommy shouted, his voice cracking. "Mommy, what if we can't get out?" "Shh," she hushed him fiercely, though the fear coursed through her veins like an electric shock. "We will get out, I promise." But even as she said the words, doubts clawed at her. How could she be sure? Just ahead, a dim light flickered. Was it hope or yet another trick? Claire led them forward, but as they approached, a deep, resonant growl emanated from the darkness. Something was waiting for them, something patient and hungry. "Mom, please," Tommy shouted, his voice cracking. They dashed toward the light, an ethereal glow pulsing like a heartbeat. But it wasn't simply illumination, it was alive. Wisps of that same darkness peeled away from the walls, dancing like specters drawn to the children's fear. "Just a little further," Claire urged, her voice strained, desperation mixing with determination. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shuddered violently. The light flickered wildly, and in that moment of chaos, Claire saw it. A figure emerging from the shadows, tall and twisted, with limbs too long, and a face that shouldn't exist. "Get back!" she screamed, instinct driving her to shield her children. But the being lunged forward, its mouth split wide like a cavern, releasing echoes of laughter mingled with cries of pure torment. In that second, Claire's heart felt like it was going to explode. The air thickened, becoming almost tangible, wrapping around them. Time slowed to a crawl. "Mommy!" Ellie cried, terror consuming her. "Run, now!" Claire shouted, feeling the icy grip of that darkness closing in. They dashed toward the ephemeral light, now flickering like a candle in the wind. Just as they reached it, the light exploded. Claire stumbled backward, pulling her kids close, expecting the worst. But there was no pain. The world around them shifted, enveloping them in an embrace cold and foggy. As they stood there, breathless and confused, the whispers returned, hushed yet insistent. "You should have joined us. Now you will have to pay the price." What price? What did it mean? Then the laughter echoed again, no longer distant, but shaking the very ground beneath them. They were not alone.
Whatever they had awakened was drawing closer, hungry for their souls. "Mommy, I'm scared." Tommy's voice trembled with pure fear. And just before darkness claimed them, Claire felt a searing chill, a grip around her throat tightening as black tendrils started to wrap around her. What awaited them in the darkness? Is this how it truly ends? Farther down the tunnel, a winding path awaited, filled with echoes and whispers. What horror slept beneath the earth, anticipating their next move? Claire's breath quickened, a new dread filling her chest. Could they ever escape the labyrinthine abyss, or were they already trapped in a nightmare from which there was no waking? Their breaths mingled in the ghostly fog, thick and damp, as uncertainty crept deeper into Claire's mind. She could feel the weight of the darkness pressing against her, almost as if it had form, each whisper more insistent, more demanding. "Ellie, Tommy, we need to stay together," she urged, drawing the children closer, feeling their small bodies shivering against her. Was this the afterlife? Had the tunnel claimed them? Her heart sank with fear. She felt like a marionette, strings cut, dangling aimlessly in the abyss. The laughter surged, echoing around them. "Join us," it taunted. Shadows twitched at the corners of Claire's vision, darting like insects. But every time she turned her head, nothing was there. Just the gloom and a sense of impending doom, tightening like a vice around her chest. She strained to see ahead, desperate for any sign of escape. The faint glow from before was gone, leaving suffocating darkness in its absence. "What now?" Ellie whimpered, her young voice trembling. "Trust me, baby," Claire said, fighting the stutter in her resolve. "We'll keep moving." As they stumbled forward, each footfall felt heavier. The tunnel's walls closed in, squeezing their shoulders. Claire's mind raced. Every instinct screamed for her to flee, but there was nowhere to go except deeper into the unknown. Suddenly, she heard it again, the low growl, rumbling like distant thunder, stirring ancient terrors within her. The ground shook beneath them, and Claire dropped to one knee, maintaining firm grips on her kids. "Stay down," she hissed, instinctively shielding them. The darkness flickered. She caught glimpses of twisted faces, mouths curled into cruel, mocking grins. The echoes of laughter mixed with their sighs, shimmering on the edge of her perception. Fear churned in her stomach as she began to wonder if the nightmares were alive, manifesting in forms that defied logic. "Stop," she yelled into the void. "What do you want?" In response, the growls intensified, vibrating through the tunnel like a chorus of despair. "Join us," came. The whispers, ethereal and resonant. Something shifted in the darkness, darting just out of her view. A figure, watching, calculating. Tommy squeezed her hand tighter, his terror palpable. "Mommy, I don't want to play anymore." "Neither do I," she cried, pulling him closer, determination rising through the fear. There had to be a way out. "We can't give in. Just remember, we're together." Suddenly, through the oppressive darkness, a flicker of light returned, a feeble glimmer shimmering at the tunnel's end, brighter than before, but still distant. It felt like a lifebuoy in an ocean of despair. "Look!" Claire yelled, a semblance of hope pushing her feet onward. "There! Do you see it? We can make it!" Fueled by instinct, they moved toward the light, but the growling morphed, an angry roar resonating as shadowy forms began to coalesce around them. Gnarled hands reached out, inches from their skin, clawing at the air, desperate to drag them back. "Run!" Claire shouted again, pulling her children into a sprint. Adrenaline surged, pounding in her ears.
The children cried, but she pressed on, dodging spectral hands grasping at their clothes. As they darted forward, the light pulsed, illuminating figures, ghastly faces frozen in eternal screams. "Mommy, faster!" Ellie screamed, her small feet scrambling against the cold earth. The light grew, expanding like dawn, dispelling the night, but its warmth felt like a trap, luring them toward a fate they couldn't understand. Just as they reached for it, a sudden force jerked Claire back, sending her sprawling before the threshold, distorting the potential haven into a swirling cauldron of shadows. "Join us! Join us!" The voices turned sinister. The refusal to join engulfed them in a cacophony of wails and howls, dragging at their resolve. "Mom, no!" Tommy's scream shattered the air as Claire felt those cold fingers trapping her, seizing her throat again. In that moment, she realized the light wasn't salvation. It was a doorway, and they were caught in an endless cycle of terror. They weren't just being hunted, they were part of a macabre game. "Claire!" Ellie broke her focus, her tiny voice laced with desperation. "Help us!" In a heartbeat, they were swept in again, past the threshold and into darkness anew. What lay beyond? Would they finally embrace the unholy invitation? The darkness closed in, and Claire's heart raced, each beat drumming the urgency of their next move. Somewhere, the tendrils writhed, ready to tighten their grip. What if we can't escape? What price will they demand? And as the shadows thickened, there came a new whisper, slithering through the air. "You're already ours." Claire's breath caught as the figures encircled them, dark and distorted, inching ever closer. The tunnel had secrets yet to unveil, but one question lingered in her mind. Who or what was really in control? The air grew heavy, thick with dread and despair, drowning out Claire's resolve. She could feel the shadows closing in, their whispers intertwining with her thoughts like invisible chains. "You're already ours," echoed hauntingly,
slithering into her ears, wrapping her in layers of paralysis. In that dark moment between fear and defiance, she felt a spark, a flicker of rebellion. "Not today!" she shouted, her voice ripping through the oppressive darkness like a lightning bolt. With fierce determination, Claire grasped both children tighter, the presence of love intensifying her courage. "We are not yours!" The darkness recoiled as if struck, the shapes wavering and flickering, deep growls vibrating through the tunnel. "But you are part of us," the voices hissed. "You cannot escape what you fear the most." "Mommy!" Ellie cried, but Claire felt the tight grip of her daughter's hand, reaffirming the bond of their family. This was not a game, this was survival. They were together, and that alone was their strength. "Hold on to me," Claire urged, dragging them forward once more. They ran, careening down the tunnel towards that faint light, a beacon promising escape from the malevolent thrall of the abyss. With every step, the weight of darkness pressed harder against them, fingers of shadow clawing at their heels, trying to grip and pull them back. The whispers twisted into anguished chants, drowning out her thoughts. But she couldn't listen, she had to focus. "We can't give up, we can't let them take us," Claire shouted over the cacophony, igniting that fire anew. She turned back, heart racing, resolve hardening. "You'll never have us." At the end of the tunnel, the pulsing light gutters like a candle in the wind. Still distantly alluring, it drew them with both promises of safety and treachery. But they were so close. She could almost feel the warmth reaching out to envelop them, a stark contrast to the vile chill that surrounded. Just as they reached the precipice of the warm glow, the darkness surged one final time, a roiling wave of anguish and fury. Shadows spiraled into a tempest, closing in from all sides, grasping at the very essence of their being. The roar of their power shook the very foundation beneath them. "Mom!" Tommy shouted, eyes wide in panic. The tendrils twisted around their legs, pinning them to the ground, despair creeping into the corners of their hearts. Claire gritted her teeth, refusing to succumb. "Do you feel that?" She suddenly stopped, the sensation of the shadow's grips tightening around her. "We all have fears, but we also have strength," she declared, feeling the warmth of the children's small hands. "Together we're unstoppable." The children's fear transformed into a glimmer of resolve. Ellie's grip tightened, and Tommy nodded fiercely, encouraged by their mother's unwavering spirit. With one mighty push, Claire released a primal scream, an articulation of defiance that reverberated through the dark. "We are family, we are loved, and that will never change." Their collective force surged toward the light, and with a fierce yell, Claire propelled them through the shimmering glow. The shadows fragmented, crying out, their voices twisting into agonized howls. Claire felt a rush, a powerful flow of warmth, engulfing them as they breached the threshold. The haunt of despair ripped apart. Light exploded, and the shadows shattered like broken glass, scattering into wisps of smoke that wafted away, leaving only an echoing silence in their wake. With one last push, they stumbled into a vast open space, blinking against a canvas of brilliant white light. The tunnel behind them collapsed, consumed by its own darkness, leaving no remnant of their torment. "What just happened?" Tommy panted, still clutching Ellie's hand. "I think we did it," Claire breathed, damp with sweat and adrenaline, an overwhelming sense of liberation coursing through her. "We faced it together, as a family." The world before them morphed into familiar terrain, the landscape of Salem bathed in glimmering sunshine. They stood on the grassy hill outside their home, feeling the warm breeze brush against their skin. It felt like a dream, the horrors they had faced now behind them. Ellie beamed up at her mother, hope sparkling in her eyes. "We're okay, Mommy. We really are." "Yes, we are," Claire laughed, pulling them both into a fierce embrace, tears of joy mingling with relief. "We're okay, and we always will be, together." But even as they stood in their radiant world, a flicker of understanding settled in Claire's heart. Though the nightmares had been vanquished for now, the bond forged through their terror would hold forever. They learned not just to survive, but to thrive in love despite the shadows that lurked in every corner. Salem may always hold its secrets, but they had become its masters. It was time to live anew. Now, dear viewers, if you want to catch the next thrilling tales, you need to subscribe right now. Don't miss more incredible stories that could keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button for good luck, and let's feed the algorithm together. Flood the comment section with your thoughts. Share your theories on Claire's journey, and let me know your favorite parts. I value your insights. And don't wait even one more second to share this story with at least 5 friends who appreciate a good spine-chilling adventure. Let's spread the love and the thrill. Your support means everything.